All right, let's dive into Nothing Tech and their new phones. You know the Nothing Phone 2A and the 2A Plus.
Yeah,
We've got this review from RechargeMyTopup Tech Reviews app, and they seem to know their stuff when it comes to tech.
they're pretty good, yeah.
So maybe you're thinking upgrade time. Or maybe you're just curious about all the hype around nothing.
I get it. There's been a lot of buzz.
Either way, we're going to break it all down. We'll check out that wild Glyph interface, see how they're getting the community involved, and figure out if they actually deliver on all the promises.
Yeah, it's fascinating how quickly they've made a name for themselves. It's a tough market out there.
It is.
And a lot of their success has to do with design. That's a major strength for them.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that design. First thing you notice, right? That transparent back.
Oh, for sure.
And then you've got those LED trips, the Glyph interface. I mean, nobody else is doing that.
It's definitely eye-catching, but it's not just about looks.
Right.
Those LEDs actually do stuff. Like, they light up for notifications.
Oh, cool.
They show your charging status, and you can even use them as a fill light when you're taking pictures.
No way.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
It's like they're trying to actually be different, which I like. And they didn't forget about making it tough either. Gorilla Glass 5,
Yep.
so it's less likely to scratch. And the IP54 rating means it can handle a little splash of water, maybe some dust.
Exactly. It's stylish but practical to a good combo. And the display is also pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Both phones, big 6.7-inch AMOLED screen, full HD plus resolution.
Okay, but that's kind of standard these days, right? Lots of phones have that. What makes these screens special?
Hold on, I'm getting there. The cool part, 120 hertz refresh rate.
Okay.
Scrolling through your feeds, gaming, just moving around the phone, everything's super smooth, really responsive.
I bet you can tell the difference coming from an older phone.
Oh yeah, especially if you have a slower refresh rate, you'll notice it right away.
That makes sense. High refresh rate, I could see that. But that can drain the battery, can it?
Yeah, it can.
We'll have to talk about battery life. But first, the brains of the operation, the processors.
Oh yes. The 2A has the MediaTek Dimensity 7200 Pro, and the 2A Plus has the Dimensity 7350 Pro.
Okay, and the Plus, that one's what, overclocked?
Exactly. It's been tweaked to run a bit faster than the standard 7350 Pro.
So what does all this mean for, the average person?
Okay, think of the processor as the phone's engine. More powerful engine, you can run more demanding apps, games, all that, without any lag.
So like a sports car versus a family sedan.
Pretty much. But here's the thing. Even though the Plus has a slightly stronger engine, both phones can handle what most people throw at them.
Okay.
They're both built on a 4-nanometer process, meaning they're efficient, won't kill your battery too fast, and they share the same Mali G610 MC4 GPU that handles all the visual stuff, games, video, you name it.
So both should be pretty smooth for everyday use. But what about, like, the power users?
Yeah.
People who are always multitasking, doing a bunch of stuff at once, or hardcore gamers, would they be better off with their 2A Plus?
Good question. It does have that edge in raw power, but I think most people will be happy with either phone, honestly.
Makes sense. Now, what about memory and storage? Those options can really affect how the phone feels to use over time.
For sure. The 2A has a few options. 8 gigabytes of RAM with either 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of storage.
Okay.
Or you can go 12 gigabytes of RAM with 256 gigabytes of storage. More RAM means smoother multitasking.
Right, right.
And more storage, well, more space for all your stuff.
Pictures, videos, apps, all that.
Yep. The 2A Plus is a bit different, though.
Oh, yeah? How so?
It skips that 128 gigabytes option altogether, starts at 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, and goes up from there. So if you need lots of space right away, the Plus might be the way to go.
Makes sense. A lot of choices there. Now, let's talk battery life.
Yeah, that's key.
Because a phone can have all the fancy features in the world, but if it dies on you halfway through the day.
Totally useless, but don't worry, both the 2A and the TA Plus have a pretty big battery.
Oh, good.
5,000 mAh.
Wow, okay.
That should easily get you through a full day, even if you're using it a lot.
That's good to hear. What about charging? How fast do these things charge?
The 2A supports 35W fast charging, which is pretty decent.
Uh-huh.
But the 2A Plus bumps it up to 50W, so it charges even faster.
Nice. Little advantage there for the Plus. Okay, software time. Both phones run Nothing OS.
Based on Android.
Right.
And this is important. They launched with different versions of Nothing OS, but they've both been updated to the latest Android 15.
Oh, that's good. Software updates are crucial. You need those for security, new features. It's good that they're keeping them up to date.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the standard 2A and the 2A Plus. But there's another version, right? The community edition of the 2A Plus.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Because they actually got the community involved in the design process. Like, really involved.
Yeah. Imagine having a say in the phone you're going to use.
That's so cool. What kind of input did people have? Like, were they just picking colors or something?
No, no, it was deeper than that. They gave feedback on hardware stuff, the look of the wallpapers, even the packaging. You don't see that level of collaboration very often.
So they really meant it when they said community.
Absolutely. And I think it's a smart move. It creates this feeling of ownership, like you're a part of something bigger.
I like that. So we've talked about the hardware, the software, the community, the design. What does this all mean for the person thinking about buying one of these phones?
Well, when you look at the big picture, both the 2A and the 2A Plus offer a lot for the price. You're getting those premium features like the AMOLED display, the powerful processors, the long-lasting battery, and you're paying a lot less than you would for other big-name phones.
So you don't have to break the bank to get a phone that looks good, performs well, and has all the latest features.
Exactly. You don't have to compromise on quality or features just because you want an affordable phone.
And let's not forget that unique design, that Glyph interface. It's not just a gimmick. It's actually useful and a cool way to interact with your phone.
It definitely adds a new dimension to the whole experience. You can customize those light patterns for different things like notifications or contacts, and even use it as a fill light for photos and videos. It's a fun way to personalize your phone and make it your own.
It makes it stand out, that's for sure. And that whole community aspect adds to the story. It's like they're building more than just phones, almost like a movement.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's a brand people can get passionate about.
So for you, what's the most exciting thing about these phones?
For me, it's that mix of innovation and affordability. They've created phones that are cutting edge and accessible, which is hard to do, and getting the community involved just adds to that. It shows they care about more than just selling phones.
Yeah, I agree. I love that they're taking risks and trying new things. It's refreshing.
And it's paying off. They've found their place in the market and they're growing fast.
Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, but what about the cameras? Because let's be real, that's a big deal for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And we wouldn't do a deep dive without talking about the cameras. Both the 2A and 2A Plus have some seriously impressive specs and features.
So let's get into those details. Starting with the rear cameras. Both phones have a dual camera system on the back.
And it's a powerful setup. The main camera on both phones is a 50-megapixel Sony IMX890 sensor that's high-end, usually found in more expensive phones. So it's a nice surprise to see it here.
And that second lens, what's that all about?
That's a 50-megapixel ultra-wide lens, perfect for landscapes, group shots where you want to fit everyone in. Ultra-wide lenses are getting really popular. They give you a lot more flexibility.
And did we mention something about the Glyph interface being used for photography too?
Oh yeah, you can use it as a fill light, especially in low light. It's clever and definitely something you won't find on other phones.
So you can use those LEDs to add a little extra light? That's cool. But what about video? What can these phones do?
Both can shoot 4K video at up to 60 frames per second. Super detailed and smooth footage, even for action shots.
So you can make some pretty professional-looking videos, not just photos. What about the selfie camera?
32-megapixel sensor on the front, plenty for those high-res selfies and video calls.
Okay, so we've covered the hardware, megapixels, lenses, all that. But software matters too, right?
Big time. A good camera needs good software. And Nothing didn't skimp on that. Nothing OS has some really nice camera features built in, their own custom filters, editing tools, things like that.
So you can get creative, make your photos and videos look unique. It's not just point and shoot.
Exactly. And that's what's cool about their approach to cameras. It's the whole experience, from the hardware to the software, even the community stuff ties in.
Okay, so we've looked at the rear cameras, the front camera, video, software. It sounds like they've really put effort into the camera system here. But what's your overall impression of the camera experience? How do you think it stacks up against other phones in this price range?
I'd say they're pretty impressive for the price. Versatile lenses, high-resolution sensors, and fun software features.
So not just good on paper, they actually perform in real life.
That's what matters. You can have all the megapixels you want, but if the photos and videos don't look good, what's the point?
Exactly. So it sounds like they've really thought about their cameras. But I want to hear from you, the listener. If you could have a say in the design of a future nothing phone, what would be your top priority? Faster processor, better cameras, maybe even more creative uses for that Glyph interface.
Yeah, let us know.
We want to hear your ideas, but before you do, we've got one more crucial thing to talk about: the price.
Ah, yes, the big question. Because even the most amazing phone is no good if it's too expensive.
Right, so let's break it down, see how these phones are priced and how they compare to the competition.
And we'll find out if they really delivered on that value they're promising.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back to wrap things up.
Wait, we don't take breaks in this show. We just keep diving deeper.
Oh, right. Of course. No breaks. Let's keep going. Okay, so we were just talking about how nothing got their community in on the design for that community edition of the 2A Plus. I think it's really neat that it goes beyond just the looks.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about it. It's not just picking colors or materials. Like, the community got to have a say in some of the hardware choices. For example, they helped decide where certain parts would go, and they even influenced how the Glyph interface works. That's pretty rare in the tech world.
That shows they're really listening to people and trying to make a phone that people actually want, right? It feels more collaborative, more transparent than some of those bigger companies.
It's definitely a nice change. It builds a stronger connection, between the company and the people using their phones.
And I think that's a big part of why people like nothing, right? It's not just about the specs or whatever, it's the whole experience. It feels different.
Yeah, exactly. It's about building a community.
Okay, so we've talked about the hardware, the software, the community stuff, and the design. But what does all this mean for someone who might actually buy one of these phones?
Well, if we take a step back and look at the big picture, both the Nothing Phone 2A and the 2A, plus give you a lot for your money. You're getting all these premium features like the AMOLED screen, the powerful processors, that big battery that lasts forever,
Uh-huh.
and you're not paying an arm and a leg. It's way less than a lot of those other flagship phones.
So you don't have to be rich to get a good phone.
Exactly. Nothing is proving that you can get style and affordability without sacrificing quality or features.
And we can't forget that awesome design. That Glyph interface isn't just a gimmick, it's actually useful.
Yeah, it's a whole new way to use your phone. You can change the light patterns for different notifications or contacts. You can even use it as a fill light when you're taking photos or videos. It's a fun way to make your phone unique.
Right. And the community aspect adds to that. It's like they're building something bigger than just a phone company.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's a brand that people can feel good about.
So what do you think is the most compelling thing about these phones?
For me, it's the combination, the innovation, and the fact that they're affordable. That's really hard to find in the smartphone world these days. And the fact that they actually involve their community, that makes them even cooler. It shows they're trying to do something different.
I'm with you there. I like that they're not afraid to try new things. It's exciting.
And it's working. They've carved out their own space in a tough market.
Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what about the cameras? Because cameras are a big deal these days.
Totally. We wouldn't forget about the cameras. Both the 2A and the 2A Plus have some really great camera stuff going on.
Okay, let's dive into that. First up, the cameras on the back. Both phones have 2 cameras.
Yeah, and it's a good setup. The main camera on both phones is a 50-megapixel Sony IMX890 sensor.
Okay,
That's a high-end sensor, usually found in more expensive phones.
so that's pretty good. What about that other lens? What's that for?
That's a 50-megapixel ultra-wide lens, perfect for landscapes or those big group shots where you want to get everyone in.
Ultra wide? Yeah, I've heard those are getting popular.
Yeah, they give you more options when you're taking pictures.
And didn't we say something about using the Glyph interface for photos too?
Oh, right. You can use it as a fill light. Really handy in low light situations. It's another thing that sets these phones apart.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You can use those LEDs to add some extra light. So what about video? What kind of video can you shoot with these phones?
Both phones can shoot 4K video at up to 60 frames per second. Really smooth, detailed footage.
So you can make some pretty cool videos, not just photos. Now what about selfies?
The front-facing camera is 32 megapixels, more than enough for those high-res selfies and video calls.
So you're covered on all front. But it's not just about the hardware, right? The software matters too.
Totally. You need good software to make those cameras shine. And Nothing didn't forget about that. They have their own filters, editing tools, all built into Nothing OS.
So you can get creative with your photos and videos, make them your own.
Exactly. That's what I like about their approach. They're thinking about the whole experience, not just throwing a bunch of fancy specs at you.
So overall, what are your thoughts on the cameras? How do they compare to other phones in this price range?
I think they're a great value. Versatile lenses, those high-resolution sensors, and some fun software features.
And they actually perform well in the real world.
Yeah, for sure. All those megapixels don't mean anything if the photos and videos don't look good.
Right. So it sounds like Nothing has done a good job with the cameras. But we want to hear what you think.
Yeah. What about you?
If you could help design a future Nothing phone, what would you focus on? A faster processor? Maybe even better cameras? Or some crazy new use for that Glyph interface?
We want to hear your ideas.
But before you go off and design your dream phone, we've got one more thing to talk about. The price.
Ah, yes. The most important question. Because a phone can be amazing, but if no one can afford it.
It doesn't matter. So let's talk numbers. Let's break down how much these phones cost and see how that compares to other phones out there.
And we'll see if they really are the good value that Nothing says they are.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive. We'll be right back to wrap things up.
Wait, remember, we don't take breaks, we just keep diving.
Oh, right. No breaks. Onward. All right, so we've pretty much covered it all, haven't we? The design, the display, the performance, those cool cameras, and how Nothing is doing this whole community thing. But we can't forget about the most important part.
The price tag.
Exactly. Because a phone can have all the bells and whistles in the world, but it's got to be affordable, right?
Absolutely. No point in having a phone no one can buy.
So let's get down to brass tacks. How much do these phones cost, and how does that stack up against the competition?
Well, the Nothing phone, 2-bay, starts at $449.
Okay.
That puts it right in the mid-range category. Pretty competitive, especially when you look at all the features you get for that price.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. A high refresh rate AMOLED display, a powerful processor, that unique design, a good camera system, all for under $500. That's a lot of phone for the money.
It really is. And if you want more storage or RAM, the price goes up a bit. But even at those higher configurations, the 2A is still a good deal compared to other phones in its class.
Okay, so what about the 2A Plus? How much are we talking for that one?
The 2A Plus starts at $549.
So a bit more expensive.
A little bit, yeah. But remember, you get that overclocked processor, faster charging, and you start with more storage. Plus, you have the option to get the Community Edition, which costs a little more, but comes with that whole cool story of being involved in the design process.
Yeah, so you're paying a little extra for those perks. But overall, it seems like both the 2A and the 2A Plus are priced pretty well.
They're hitting that sweet spot, offering premium features without the premium price tag. It's smart.
And I think that's what's so exciting about what Nothing is doing. They're showing that you don't have to pay a fortune for a great phone.
Right. It's a breath of fresh air, especially in a market where everyone is always pushing those expensive flagship phones. Nothing is making those higher-end features more accessible. That's great for consumers.
I agree. So if you're looking for a new phone and you want something that's different, something that stands out,
Yeah.
the Nothing Phone 2A or the 2A Plus might be just what you're looking for.
And if you want to really dig into the specs, the features, read some reviews, head over to RechargeMyTopup.com. They've got everything you need to make a decision.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Nothing Tech and their awesome new smartphones. We hope you learned a thing or two.
Yeah, we covered a lot. The design, the Glyph interface, the performance, the cameras, the community stuff. It's a lot.
But the main takeaway, for me at least, is that you don't have to spend a ton of money to get a phone that's innovative and high quality.
They're shaking things up, giving people more choices, more value. It's exciting.
It is. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that curiosity going. We'll see you on the next deep dive.